Everyone. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of our PMP webinar series. And today, can you confirm that you can hear me co-host?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us today to share our experience of the new PMP exam. And before we go into today's discussion, a little bit about myself. My name is Tominsin Bakari. Though I'm using my colleague's account on this Zoom, so it may likely show you the GREO. But my name is Tominsin Bakari. I'm going to be your host and a moderator for this webinar today. And for my experience, I am also a PMP. I took the new exam as well, and I have my experience to share with you. And we have two of our guest speakers today with us to share their own experience on the new exam. So with me, I have Judith and Emeka. Judith is an enterprise project manager with InterSwitch Group, and Emeka as well is the lead payment solution with InterSwitch Group as well. They will introduce themselves properly when called. Getting the best out of today's series. The duration is just 1 hour. You only have 1 hour for this webinar, and taking questions. We want all questions to be focused on the exam, at least for now. It's about the exam. And we want the questions to be sent through the chat. You should drop your questions as it comes to your mind when the speakers are talking on the chat box. You may not be allowed to speak as a guest on this webinar today. Just send your questions, your observations, and responses to the chat box. We'll be able to ask questions if they are outside the exam, but I can assure you that every relevant questions will be treated today. Any other question that we may not treat on this webinar, we will contact you directly with our responses. And we appreciate if you do not turn on your video. Only the speakers are allowed to put on their videos. And for the agenda today, I've introduced the speakers to you, and the speaker will speak about their experience on the exam, one after the other. And once we finish with the two speakers, we will have a question and answer session. Thank you very much. As I introduced the first speaker to you, I want to call on Emeka to please start.
Okay, hello. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
All right, good morning.
Turn on your video.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's nice to be part of this webinar to talk about my PMP experience. My name is Chukwuemeka Vinawonye, currently the lead payment solution at InterSwitch. A brief introduction about myself. I started out as a project engineer at InterSwitch, eventually became a project and support engineer at InterSwitch, and eventually became the lead of the payment solution department. I'm currently the head of deployment division as well at InterSwitch, where essentially we're responsible for designing and implementing projects for our different customers and clients. Now that's an introduction about myself. Why did I choose to write PMP? For a very long time, I have always been interested in project management. Reason being that I started out my career as a project engineer. So I've always been part of the process of engaging with our different customers when they have new requests or come up with ask us to design a new solution for them, as well as come to implement that solution. So I as a project or delivery engineer, has always been part of that process. I, of course, have had to see project managers in my company who are assigned to that project do their thing, and it was quite interesting. And over the years, as I progressed from being strictly a project or implementation engineer to being a technical leader in the department, I've also been responsible for managing different projects for my direct reports. So I felt that the PMP exam or the PMP certification would be an additional, would be one, a means of testing all the knowledge that I've gathered over the years while observing and being part of the project delivery process or project management process, as well as taking on new knowledge based on the body of knowledge that's available when preparing for the PMP certification. And that's the reason why I opted in to take the PMP exam. And of course, taking the PMP exam required that I do some level of training before doing that, before, of course, taking that exam. And that necessitated signing up with Harry Baker to be trained before sitting for the exam. What was my experience? My experience while writing the exam was, first and foremost, I would like to say that it's not an easy exam to write. Part being the fact that it's a 4-hour exam, so it's really very long. And for an exam that, I can't remember the last time I had to write an exam that was that long. I mean, having to sit down in one place for 4 hours and constantly engage your brain at that stretch can be pretty tasking. So part of the things that helped me was, of course, you have to have a good night's rest before the day of the exam. You also have to make sure that you had something to eat. You must have had something to eat before the exam starts, because from my own personal experience, I couldn't leave my seat to have something to eat or have something to drink. Reason being that I opted to write the exam from my house as opposed to going to a testing center to write the exam. And of course, from that experience, because you're not being supervised by a physical person who the testing center or the body responsible for delivering the exam can hold accountable for making sure that you adhere to the requirements, as it were, for taking that exam. They usually treat out people who have to take exams from their own locations. So I wasn't allowed to leave my seats once the exam started. Even during the break, when it was break time, I essentially just had to remain on my seats and observe my break on my seats. And I wasn't allowed to take anything, drink anything, even when on break, because I had people who were constantly monitoring me from my webcam and seeing that I had nothing around me while the exam was on. So there's that experience. Of course, at some point during the exam, I couldn't wait for the exam to be over because it was really, very, very long and really tasking, having to engage your brain for that long with all the trick questions and similar answers that a lot of those questions had. So it's a process of elimination, checking and rechecking. So again, you have to be prepared mentally for the exam. Like I said earlier on, you have to have a good night. You have to have a good night rest. You have to make sure that you've had a proper meal before the exam starts. Not something heavy that will make you sleepy, but a meal that would keep you mentally focused, as well as proper hydration before you start the exam, because you might not get the opportunity to hydrate once the exam starts for the duration of 4 hours, or eat anything for the duration of 4 hours once the exam commences. Then, I'm sorry, moderator, what else?
And we appreciate you tell us how the questions are compared to the training you got from Arabica training. Okay.
Now, we had 2 sets of training from Harry Baker. The very first set was sometime last year, and that is when PMI still had the old syllabus, as it were. But when we got into 2021, of course, we were informed that they were going to be revising the old syllabus and coming up with a different one. So we had to essentially have another training to be better prepared for the syllabus that was introduced in 2021. I think that was sometime in March. I'm not exactly certain of when, but I think it was sometime in March. And as a result of that new syllabus, I think Harry Baker had to rejig their training websites, the way they offered the online training. What I mean is the materials that they have, the resources that they have online on their online platform that you would have access to when you, of course, sign up to train with them. It was rejigged, and I would like to say that that new format helped a lot. I think it was a lot better than the old formats. It was easy to track your progress. It was easy to for every section they had practice questions that you could essentially look at to test all that you had just read from prior to arriving at that particular set of test questions. That helped me. Then the training itself that was facilitated by their CEO also helps, because while I was not able to essentially go through the entire content online or the entire resources online, I was part of the session that Ario took for the entirety of 1 week, including the new session that was handled, or the new session that was organized sometime in 2021 to cater for the new syllabus. A lot of the information that I took in from that session helped me, because it was more or less very practical examples, even examples coming from my own company into Switch. It was impressive to see how informed he was about how business runs. So a lot of that engagement, questions that I threw at him during the session, and his answers and the examples he gave were helpful. So if you're looking to write the exam, I think that it's just enough for me to perhaps read on my own. That might help you to some extent, yes, but I think it's also important that you're part of a session where you hear someone who has this sort of experience take you through what to expect and essentially talk you through the different body of knowledge that you're supposed to cover before you write the exam. So that helps me. Then the fact that practice questions, I practice a lot of test questions, a lot of them. So I had a lot of practice with test questions over and over and over again, and that helped me. So I think it took me essentially about 2 weeks to prepare for the exam. That is not saying that it took me 2 weeks to study and prepare for the exam. Of course, prior to those 2 weeks, I had dedicated or brought out some period of time to go through resources and read. But when I had fixed my dates, when I had fixed my exam dates, it took me 2 weeks of dedicated focus to then consolidate all that I had studied and prepare for the exam. So during that 2 weeks, it was more or less revision and practice of test questions that essentially helped me. Then talking about my what the exam question was like, I think there's a lot of industry world, not just with regards to project management. There's a shift to the agile framework. There's a shift from what would I like to say, more task focused to more people focused sort of project management. And there's also the fact that agile framework seems to be the in thing now. So I think there's a shift in PMP examination towards that direction, because I had a lot of agile questions. A lot. I think about 90% of my questions that I saw during the exam, or I had to answer during the exam, were agile-based questions, agile framework-based questions. So if you're looking to write the exam, you might want to give a lot of focus to the agile framework and the entire agile life cycle and how things flow in that life cycle, the different components, how the different components interact, who's responsible for what, and all that. So I think you might want to give that a lot of focus, because, like I said earlier, 90% of my questions were agile-based questions. While studying, the online resources helped me. It also helped that I had, prior to now reaching the Agile Safe exam, had some agile training prior to now, and also reaching the Agile Safe exam. So that knowledge in conjunction with what I studied and the practice questions helped me to essentially nail the exam. Then it's also important that when you're writing the exam, you have a good internet. That is, if you intend to write from the comfort of your home, you have to make sure that you have good internet. Your internet has to be top-notch. If it's not top-notch, then you might be frustrated while writing the examination. Then the reason being that before you start the exam, of course, you would have someone who has, from the exam delivery body, reach out to you and ask that you turn on your video, and they will do a remote check of your surroundings to make sure that you're in a place that maintains the integrity of the exam that you're about to write. And if your internet is not so good, then the communication between you and the person might be problematic, and that could eat into your exam time. It's also important that you sign on at the very least 30 minutes before the exam commences.
Thank you so much, Emeka, for this. I would like to call on Judith to briefly tell us about yourself, to tell us about your experience on the exam. Tell us how helpful the training you got is to your exam, and how long it took you to study before you took the exam, and also about the kind of questions you got on the exam. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for giving us the platform to share this experience. I really do appreciate. Okay, I go by the name Judith Wonfor. Introduction. Yes, I currently work for InterSwitch Nigeria as a project manager. Prior to now, I had worked with the consulting firm where I was managing service deliveries, So that's for the introduction. That's me. About my exam experience, yeah. Hello, I want to be sure that I am audible enough.
You are audible.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So writing in preparations to the exam, for me, I had started writing and preparing, or rather the first time I thought about writing this exam was in 2018, yeah. Now then, I think I picked up the PMBOK and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me because I needed more, I needed a training, I needed a class, for us to get on with the exam. So fast forward until last year, which was 2020, I started up the training. So first, before you write the PMP exam, you need to have this 35 contact hours from a PMP registered institution. So I know Rebecca does that. So at the end of the training, they give you a certificate which you would use as part of what you used to make the application to the PMI. Now, during the exam, I took my exam online. Yeah, I took my exam online. It was in my house on a Saturday. Before taking the exam, there were a couple of things I needed to put into consideration, So I knew I was not going to a center. I knew I was not going to a center to have that test. I knew I was going to do it in my house. So I needed to make sure that the time when I'll pick the exam is fine. So of course, it's a 4 hours exam. So you need to make sure that the time you're fixing your exam, you're convenient, and of course it's quiet. Before the exam, you're expected to log in. The exam link allows you to log in 30 minutes before it starts. So that 30 minutes is your check-in time. You're expected to snap the 4 dimension of where you're sitting. For instance, you're sitting in the room, so you snap the left, right, the front, and the back view of where you'll be taking. So you need to ensure that there's no inscription on the wall. So if you have any frame that has some inscription, you need to take it out. No writings, and you just need to take out. Make sure the place is serene and no TV. Nobody's on. Nobody's passing, and then TV is not on at the same time. Aside from that, you also need to have a valid means of identification. In my case, I use my international passport. So you need to snap your international passport and then upload it, so that's during your check-in time. So it's advisable, I would rather say yes, it's advisable you log in within that 30 minutes. Don't wait till your exam is by 12. Don't wait to 12 to log in. You can log in 11:30 so that you can take out time to do those check-in procedures. And of course, your camera is going to be on all through the exam. So you can't move, you can't look up, you can't look side, you can't literally turn, you can't even murmur, right? So for instance, you're tired, you're trying to read out the questions, you can't actually do that. You're expected to be quiet throughout your exam, which is 4 hours. So moving forward, I'm trying to remember other things for the exam. So the results, after writing the exam, your result is out immediately. So immediately you click submit, you're seeing whether you're passing or you're failing, right? So you get to see whether you're passing or you're failing. So it's just good that you read and you prepare for your exam. So just to mention, this particular exam, that's this new will I call it the syllabus for the PMP, it's broken down into 3 major domains. You have the people, process, and business environment. So you're expected to, the exam has 80 questions for 3 domains. So in total, you have 160 questions. In between the 3 domains, you have 10 minutes break. You have the first 80 questions, then you have a 10 minutes break, you have the 80 questions, and you have a 10 minutes break. In my own case, I wasn't feeling too well on the day of my exam. So before I started my exam, you have the chat where you get to ask the proctor, that's the person who is invigilating you from the other end. You're not seeing the person. In my own case, I was not able to talk to the person, but you can chat. So the chat came up and I just asked, can I move around? Can I stand up from my seat during my break? And the person responded to me, yes, you can, but just ensure that you click on your break period so that you can, move around. So immediately it was my break. I needed to, stand up. I had before entering the exam, I had water down and I had 4 apples. Yes, I had 4 apples down. So in between the breaks, like during the breaks, I would stand up and drink water, ease myself, and then I would eat the apple so I can come back, because I had not had this type of exam in a very long time. And prior to now, I know I was having some preparations that has to do with answering PMP exam. So in the time past, what we were having where you can literally memorize, you can memorize the question, not the question, you can memorize your answers in the sense that they could ask you calculation, those calculation, you get to, just memorize things and you just dump it during the exam. But in this case, it is not memorization, it is application. So what I mean by application, you get to put yourself in the situation. Yeah, so it's application. You get to put yourself in the situation. And one thing I would say helped me was, I am towards like 2 days to my exam, I had stumbled upon something on YouTube which had to do with the servant leadership mindset. So I had that in my head, and then while writing the exam, I just had to tell myself, okay, what would a servant leader do? So I can't remember how many. There's like a rule. There are like rules to the servant leadership or the servant leader. So I just remember those rules, have it at the back of my head while I was attempting those questions. My questions were where I had drag and drop questions. I had they were all objective, drag and drop. You could be asked to pick more than 1 answers in the option. So you can be asked to pick 2 questions, sorry, not 2 questions, 2 answers. I'm just trying to remember my experience during the exam. I think that's it. Hello, Tony. I'm not sure if I covered much of.
Yes, I think the question will lead us on to further explanation as to how the exam went in itself. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you all participants as well. You can still keep the questions coming. I've got one question which is very, very relevant. I will want both Judith and Emeka to answer one at a time. You mentioned that Emeka specifically, you mentioned that you used some practice questions. So someone is asking, which practice questions did you use to prepare for your exam?
Okay, so like I said earlier, as part of the training package that Rebecca provides, they also give questions on the online portal that you have access to. I think it's for 100 days. Tommy, I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I think they're about 100 days after your training, so that when you're going through the resources, it also are for based on the different the expectation, different modules you're supposed to know. As they take those modules bit by bit, at the end of each module, there are questions, there are practice questions that are attached to each module.
Right, so what you're saying now is that you use the questions from the Arabica portal.
Yes.
Right, I think that is clear. And are they relevant to the questions you got on the exam?
Oh yes, they're relevant. They're actually relevant.
Good. Judith, can you answer that as well?
Oh yes, so towards the end of the training with Rebecca, we had this access to the LMS and which had questions, you know. So I mean, I attempted all. You need to make sure you attempt all questions and try to gather any other questions you can get. The whole idea is to get yourself familiarized with the type of questions and the type of answers you know you're going to get, and at the same time, yes, it was very much planned towards the exam.
Thank you very much. Just to follow on to that, on our platform in Arabica, we have over 1,000 practice questions. Over 1,000 practice questions that you can take before your exam. And they are relevant exam questions. They might not be word for word, but they are the typical exam questions you will get on the exam in itself. You know, it might be rewarded because I've got so many of them. You know, I told you I took this new exam myself. There are so many of them that are the same concept, the same question and answer, but they were rewarded, just rewarded. So we have over 1,000 of them on the LMS that you have access to. And another question is, how long does it take you to prepare for this exam? Let's say after the training, how long does it take you to prepare for this exam? Judith, can I start with you?
Okay, so for me, I would say you can. I took actually less than 10 days to plan for my exam. Yes, I took less than 10 days. So basically, I had the training. We had the training in December. We did another one again in March. But you basically you just need to. It's an exam, right? So even if we had the training, which you know to some extent padded up in preparation to the exam, but it took me 10 days. 10 days, I would say. I registered towards, it was after I picked my exam dates. That was when I started preparing for my exam. You might not want to do so but for me, I mean, that worked for me. It was after I picked my date, I had to prepare. And then I picked a very close date. So it was less than 10 days I took to prepare for it.
Yeah, thank you. Emeka, can you share your experience on that?
Okay, so it took me actually 2 weeks to prepare for the exam itself, proper for the exam. I mean, prior to that, I had been, of course, taking out time, allocated some time out of my schedule to read the resources available, to look at the PM body of knowledge, book of the test that has the PM body of knowledge. But when I was ready to write the exam, after I had chosen a date, I think I chose a date 3 months prior to writing the exam. And when it was 2 weeks to the exam, as I gave out, that was intensive preparation for the exam. It took me about 2 weeks to write the exam. That's not saying that prior to that intensive 2 weeks period, I hadn't studied or read anything to prepare for the exam. So I don't want you to come off from this session thinking that, oh, I can afford to just fix my exam, not read or practice, and choose to the exam. I will just read, practice, and go and write the exam and expect to pass. No, but you have to have at least started reading and practicing. But intensive, where I gave more time and focus to preparing for the exam, was 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question that I have here, someone was asking how many questions are on the exam. There are 180 questions, 180 questions, and they are all multiple choice questions. They are objectives. And someone also asked about the training, that does the training, the mandatory training, that is the PDU for your registration, does it expire? And if training is taken in 2014 and the exam is to be written in 2021, does the previous training suffice or another is required? First of all, the training does not expire. The training does not expire, but where we have a concern is when you took a training in 2014, and here we are in 2021, the exam curriculum changed at the beginning of this year. that tells you something. 2014 to now, they've had about 2 different PMBOKs. So a lot has changed. So you are required to take another training to upgrade yourself and get to understand the new way of answering the new questions. I mean, the new syllabus in itself. So we advise that you take another training for the new exam. That is about that. I still advise people to keep the questions coming. I once said that Emeka said no drink, no food, but Judith said that she had some stuffs. Can you explain more? I will quickly take that. You are not allowed to take food or drink to your exam. I think what Judith meant is that she had them somewhere. When you're taking your exam, you have, after the first 60 questions, you have a 10-minute break. It's optional, 10-minute break. It's optional. If you want to take that 10 minutes, you can take it and, ease yourself, eat or drink or do whatever. But you will have to submit those first 60 questions. And when you come back, you continue. Your time will stop at that point until you continue again. If you don't want to use that 10 minutes, you can continue. I mean, you can just click on to continue within a minute when the question pops up. So it's those times that you can take something to eat. And someone also asked, because we talk about the kind of questions that you have that you will get on the exam in itself. There are various types of question style. I think our guests do not really dwell much on this. There are questions that are scenario-based. There are ones that you match. There are ones that you pick 2 options. For now, there are no filling the gap on the questions. You can only drag and drop. Those are the questions that we have. And another question, he said, for those taking the exam in 2021, which of the PMBOK will be used, the 6th or the 7th edition? The 7th edition of the PMBOK is out. First of all, I need to let you know it's out. But the current exam, the new exam they're still taking now, is based on the 6th edition. So when the exam on the 7th edition will start, I'm very sure PMI will announce it. But the exam still based on the 6th edition of the PMBOK. And another question, he said, how much is the training and the certification, and how will okay, we can talk about this. We can talk about this at the end of the training. I will get in touch with you about this. Another question, he said, did you finish the PMBOK or RITA was good enough? Okay, as in finishing the PMBOK or RITA. I need to quickly explain something here. We at Harry Baker here, we've tried to summarize the whole of the PMBOK. All you need, we have it ready on our training. They are all summarized, they are all explained in a very simple way. And I guess Judith talked about it in itself, that you can read. I mean, it's a maker that mentioned it, that you can read on your own, which is good, but you need someone with experience to explain some things to you, which is what we do. We've broken down the PMBOK. PMBOK in itself was written like a Bible. Those that have attended our training, we understand that we take our training step by step, as in starting from where, the project is being initiated to the end of a project. Getting to understand your organization, where you even do carry out the project, which is what they are even asking most of the time on the exam. Talking about people you're working with, talking about how you engage with stakeholders. Those are the things they're asking for in the exam in itself. And you cannot just read and understand all of these things without practicing them, as in without a practical training to explain some things to you. And they can also confirm, like Emeka said, that the training was practical. We use series of examples, taking organization into context here as a case study to train. So we bring out all of this for people to understand what, to understand the concept. It's not just about reading Pinbook or Rita's book. I'm not saying you shouldn't read them, you can read them, but if you've been on our training, we've summarized everything. We've covered everything you need to know. Concentrate on that, take up all the practice questions and go for your exam. I'm very sure you will nail it. Very sure you will nail it. And another one, what are some materials that you can recommend? I will recommend the materials from Harry Baker. We have them on our LMS that you can, we can give you access to read. They are enough to pass the exam. We've got quite a number of people who are taking this new exam this year, just using that, the courses on our LMS alone, and they pass the exam. So that is enough for you. He said, what does it cost to take or gain Harry Baker dump material? They are not dumps, they are practice questions. And it's not just about practice questions alone, it's about the training in itself. We combine the training with the practice questions. When you finish a particular chapter, you have questions to answer. Apart from that as well, we have the mock, and we also have the what do you call it now? We have the mock, and we also have the questions group per chapters as well. So I'm just trying to read up other questions in itself. Someone said, hello, can I use an Agile PMP training certificate to register for PMP? I just wrote Agile PM last month, Foundation and Practitioner. Can I use the certificate? Unfortunately, no. You cannot use an Agile PM certificate to register for PMP. The PMI specifically require that you have 35 PDUs in, preparing you for the exam. The training itself is about preparation for the exam. Preparation for the exam. So it is to prepare you for the exam, and it covers the syllabus. It's specific. It's so specific, and it's so specific to the to the exam in itself. So you need that, and you need a certificate to confirm that you've taken the training as well. Because if your application is picked for audit, you can easily present that certificate to prove that you've taken the training. Someone here said that I took the PMP training with Harry Baker ending last year. Any discount if I'm taking it again? Yes, you have a discount if you are taking it again. So we can talk about that, and I will also come back to you and agree on a discount, but definitely you have a discount. As someone said, Emeka said 90% was centered on Agile. Please, can Judith confirm it if it applies to her as well? Judith, can you come up with this?
Okay, so for me, my exam was over 85% Agile. The thing is,
over what?
PMI has over 85%. So the thing is, PMI has said traditional waterfall approach is 50, Agile is 50. But you find out most of the question, if you find out those that have written the exam recently, would tell you it's over 70, over 80. In fact, I would literally say almost all my questions were Agile questions, but I would say 85, over 85% Agile questions.
Okay, thank you. I hope that is clear as well. So what material did you study in your practice questions? Did you use, and how relevant are they with the exam? I think they've spoken about this. Can Judith also talk about this just for a minute, please?
Okay. So sometimes last year we joined Harry Baker. Harry Baker had a training. I think it was a 5-day training or thereabouts, December last year. So after the training, we still had access to the LMS, that's Harry Baker's LMS. You get to log on to finish up the training, as well as there are practice questions, over 1,000 practice questions together for the training. So sometimes it's March. I also had a training with Harry Baker, like an updated training, because the agile part of the other agile part was going to be added to the exam question. So of course, PMI had updated the exam questions, and of course our training needed to be updated. So I went for another training in March, which had agile to it, and then the 1,000 question available on Harry Baker's LMS has agile practice question together with it. So that was majorly what I used. Then at some point in time, I went on YouTube, just to find out more things, but those were basically what I focused on. I did not have any other thing I used for my exam.
Right, thank you. That is clear as well. Said, is the training virtual or physical? For now, we still offer a virtual training, but we replicate that physical classroom experience as well on our virtual training. Still interactive. You can ask questions. You can do all manner of things that we do on the physical classroom training on our virtual training as well. So what is the cost of the retraining they had? Yes, we can talk about the cost outside this class as well. We come back to you to talk about the cost. Yes, open for those of us who have done the training before we write the exam. Specifically, after your training, we give you 60 days. It's actually 60 days after your training. And why do we give 60 days? We want to encourage people to take the exam as soon as possible. We need you to take your exam as soon as possible, because the more you leave it undone, the more you forget easily what you've learned in class. So the 60 days is for you to take the exam. It's for you to assess the materials. Yes, that is about that. So is there any discount for those that have attended the training before? Yes, you have a discount. If you've attended our training before and you are coming in for another training on PMP, you have a discount. Someone is asking, is Harry Baker an ATP? We have gotten our approval as an ATP. I was told not to train with Harry Baker with an ATP, cannot access the training. I was told, read the question well, said I was told someone that not trained with an ATP cannot access the training. That is not true in itself, but we will recommend that you go with an organization that is approved as well for your training. But to say that someone who is not an ATP, you cannot access training on whatever is not true. As someone here said, Harry Baker is yet to give us the certificate of training for the July PMP class. How do we register to write the exam, and when is the next exam, please? First of all, on your certificate, we sent out the certificate for the certificate of completion. If you end your class, for instance, on a Sunday, the following Monday, we send out the certificate. And I'm very sure the July one has been sent. I'm very sure of that. You can check your spam box. And if you cannot get it there, I will specifically send it to you again. I will note your name now and send it to you again. That is one. Two, how do you register and write the exam? In Harry Baker here, we give guidance on how you can register for the exam. Every of our delegates who require this assistance, we offer it to them. We help you, guide you all the way to register for the exam. And when is the next exam? The exam can be taken at any time. You can take your exam at any time, either at the Prometric Center, and from what Judith and Emeka said, they took their exam in their own house, on their own, just an online exam. So you can take it at any time. But to be honest with you, I will recommend that you take your exam at a center. Both of them mentioned about the internet. If you do not have a strong internet, do not risk it. go to the center where you pass the risk to them to take your exam. And when you're scheduling your exam, you have those options, either to take it online or to take it at a Prometric center, or a PSC View center, right? Yes, a PSC View center. So you have those options. And then moving on again, must the exam be taken the same year with the training? Okay, no, you do not necessarily have to take the exam that same year you took the training, and it does not expire. Only that if a PMBOK changes, you need to retrain to get yourself familiar with the new concept, with the new addition to the PMBOK and to the training in itself. So another one, because of the time, it said if you don't access within 3 days, do you still have the chance to take the advantage of the LMS? Yes, we can talk on this one-on-one if you want further access to the LMS. Yes, we can talk about this if you contact us. Yeah, someone said the July certificate is received. So my brother that has not received your own certificate for the July class, you can, we will send it again, but you can check your spam box as well. So what's the cost to take the recommended center? You don't have, you don't have to pay any amount to the center. The amount you pay to PMI covers your exam, even at the center. So you are not paying the center any dime. You only need to pick the center that is close or that is available to you. You don't need to pay them at all. And you show up there with all the necessary ID to, for your exam. That's all. Someone said, does PMP certification expires? Yes, PMP certification expires if you do not take out something PDU. You need, after being certified, you need to gather what they call PDUs. And you need 60 PDUs in 3 years. 60 PDUs in 3 years. So if you can maintain those 60 PDUs within 3 years, you still, you renew your certification. But if you could not, yes, your certificate will expire. Someone is asking, if we, just a minute, I need to quickly show you something about our class coming up as well, so that anybody here who is interested can, join us as well as I go ahead. Someone is asking if you have a center in Port Harcourt. We do not have a physical center in Port Harcourt, but we train in Port Harcourt, but we do not have a physical center in Port Harcourt. We train in Port Harcourt, and now that we even have a virtual class, people are joining from anywhere, in US, in Canada, in Europe, in Australia. People are joining our classes from everywhere now. So there is no barrier as to where you can join us training, but very close to us now. And someone is asking, can we have access to Arabica training materials and practice questions without attending the class, the training at a subsidized cost? Yes, you can. We can sell the materials, access to the materials to you if you are not attending training at discounted cost as well. We can talk about this at the end of the webinar. Someone is asking, please, could you share the cost of the training and exam with Arabica? Yes, with as well. We will share that with you. What happens if the certificate expires? If the certificate expires, you have to take, go through the process all over again. Do it expire? It's not, you can gather PDUs. You can gather PDUs by attending other courses or taking trainings or certifications, or even logging your hours of work as well. So do not let your certificate expire. If it expires, you have to apply again, take the exam again, go through this rigor all over again. Say the exam center in Port Harcourt. A physical exam center, yes, there is one center in Port Harcourt. I don't know the specific name now, but when you are booking your exam, you can choose to take the exam in Port Harcourt. It will bring out the center in Port Harcourt. Of the PMP if I want to pay online. Yes, it's very open. The exam fee, a membership, there is a membership fee, there is the exam fee. If you're paying all together, $500 for the exam. Yeah, we can also talk about that. So far, these are the questions that we have, and at times it's fast spent in itself. Before we leave, can we quickly get the final words from our speakers? Final words from our speaker. I'll start with Judith.
Okay, all right. So final words for the intending PMP exam participants. So what I would want to say is practice, 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 practice. Yeah, it's a tough exam, but you can understand the mindset behind it and you can write the exam. So you need to practice well. Make sure you rest before your day. So I was going to share this, I was going to share my experience. So while I was just doing the second—
Oh, sorry, the time is fast spent. You only have a minute, please.
Oh, okay, all right. So basically that's just practice, 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 and practice.
Thank you so much. Emeka, can we have the last word from you just within a minute, please?
Okay, so I would like to re-echo what Judith has just said, because it's really, really very important. Practice, practice, practice. The reason why practice is important, it creates the mindset of what to expect in the exam. It might not be exactly the same thing you see, but you get into that mind frame of, okay, this is what the exam is actually like. This is the kind of things that they'll be asking or throwing at you. That's honestly prepared me for the exam, despite the fact that it was tough, but because I practiced and practiced and practiced, I was mentally prepared for the concept that they had while writing the exam.
All right, thank you very much. All right, before we leave, we need you to help us with something. I know some of us are here, you've attended our training before, and we will like you to tell us which training you will like to attend again with us. Just send it to us on the chat. We will really appreciate. And a final word from me personally, I told you that I've taken the exam as well myself. What I know, not because I work with Harry Baker, people who had attended the training will bear witness with me on this, that if you listen to all we have to say in class, you will pass this exam. It seems so easy for me when I was taking it because I've listened and I've had the training from Harry Baker, from the GREO specifically. So taking the exam is just like a tick off for me. And it will interest you to know that I even got above target, well above target in all the 3 areas. I was so happy when I was answering the questions. If you've worked as a project manager, you have nothing to fear. Attend Harry Baker training, practice all of those questions, you will be fine. I know so many of you are here today who have been on the training and you're thinking about what to expect on the exam. Go through what you've learned in class. Go for this exam. You will be happy you take to this. I tell you, you will be happy. I'm still waiting for other people to respond to the courses they would like to take next with us at Harry Baker here. And if you need any help registering for this exam, you can contact us at any time. We will be here to help. We'll be here to support you all the way. And I bet it with you, you will love at the end of the training. And someone was saying that with the webinar, will it be recorded and shared? It's being recorded. We will share it with you at the end of the of the session. The link with you is going to be on our YouTube channel, and we will send you the link to access it again. Yes, you've heard from the people who are taking the exam, and I believe that you are confident enough now to take the exam. We'll be happy to see you in class for the training and to hear your news about how successful as well you are on the exam. Thank you very much and have a wonderful afternoon. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much. We really appreciate your coming. Happy to see you, and we hope to hear more from you.
Thank you very much.
Our speakers, thank you very much. Judith, Emeka, we really appreciate your time as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can still keep the stuff
Bye-bye.
coming. You can still keep the stuff coming before we stop the session in itself. If you've not given us the training you want from us again.